Hey, Joel.
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to Zoom Racing League's Division 1 Championship. Round 2 brings us to Imola here in Italy in a fast-paced race that could offer some tricky weather conditions. There we go. Sorry, with some tricky weather conditions, potential to tricky weather conditions. Yeah, 3.05 miles of rapid yet technical 17 corners with a single DRS zone, ready for some fancy overtaking into turn 1. It's a potential recipe for mayhem, as these drivers have to carefully decide when and where they decide to overtake here on this track. I'm John Ranger, and with me, I'm in the booth accompanied by my new co-commentator this season, who also covered for me last weekend, by the way, with Combined YouTuber. Big thank you for both boys covering the season opener last weekend. Sanjay, aka Spandini, with me. Hi, Spandini. How are you doing tonight? Absolutely great. A bit of a sore throat. Yeah, it's a bit of a frog in the throat right now situation, but we're all good. Short qualifying is just getting underway. A couple drivers already out on the track, getting their laps out. We're in overcast conditions so far, Spandini, but it doesn't look like it's going to be raining during the race, so we should have pretty much a dry situation kind of race tonight.
Yeah, and that's probably, some people are probably happy about that. Imola in the wet conditions is pretty tricky, and some drivers are pretty good at that. But yeah, I mean, dry race will make sure that we get good racing and good overtaking too. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting race so far. I want to see a couple drivers already on their banker laps. We're already looking at a 1:13.8 from Quentin K, which is last race's winner in our season opener in Jeddah. We had full qualifying tonight. This is just a short qualifying before getting into the race. Sanjay, how about you walk us through the standings about what was the big old stories from last week's race?
Yeah, so as you said, Quinton had a great showing out in Saudi. Got pole position, won the race. But wasn't, I mean, towards the end, Pichet and Era gave a little bit of pressure, and they ended up there right now at second and third in the standings. But I guess one of the big stories is Hudson Poole, three-time champion here at ZRL, did not have a great outing. Got disqualified or crashed out in Q2, and didn't have the greatest race. But he still ended up in 8th place. But that's where he is right now, is 8th in the standings. And I think he's looking to try to turn it around this race and start moving up the standings again.
Yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing race for Hudson Poole, who talked about some frustrations he had in regards to, the driving etiquette of other drivers on the track was a bit of an issue for him on track. And we had Nathan Doan as well, Nathan Doan and Marc-Olivier Bastien, two drivers who DNF'd last week in Saudi. So, yeah, definitely a bit of a tricky race for some drivers there, which don't be looking to be having a better race out tonight. How is it looking constructor wise, Sanjay?
Yeah, constructor wise, Haas went leading right now by 1 point. Wald Poros was able to snatch fastest lap, but I don't think that point counts because he's outside of the top 10. But yeah, Quinton having the fair share of those points, but right behind him is Alfa Romeo, which honestly look like they can be quick. Beamer's known to pull out some solid points throughout the race, and now he's in D1. It's going to be crucial that he can get some good top 10 finishes while Pichet tries to, fight for those wins. But right after that, yeah, we got Aston Martin and Williams in a really close battle, only 1 point separating them. And then Red Bull's the outlier again. We know Hudson can do a lot. And Kyle is also not a slow driver. I think he's probably top 10 again. So I think we'll be seeing them go up the standings too, depending on how well this race goes. And then you see Ferrari, Mercedes, AlphaTauri, and McLaren with Nathan Doan's DNF really hurting them in the points. But Cam Bourne was able to pull off a P7, and then Alpine in last place, where they're just unlucky. They didn't have a driver starting, and then Duncan, I think he DNF'd like after 90% of the race completion, but even then he still got 60 or 16th place. So a tough start for Alpine, but let's see if they can turn it around in this race.
Well, if they do turn it around, it'll be thanks to the reserve drivers, because none of the actual drivers in Alpine and Division 1 is actually racing. We got a couple reserves. Actually. Yeah, we have Freddie Rizal currently putting in the 7th lap time, Serge's banker lap time, so things can change very quickly, but a very respectable 1:14.5. And we have Tinel from Division 2, who is a driver who's definitely has a lot of pace. Maybe surprised a lot of people in Division 2 so far. He finished second place in Saudi and had a very respectable race for himself. Showed a lot of pace, despite being a little bit lower in the qualifying standings. So we'll see what these two guys are able to bring in terms of points for Alpine. And obviously, like you said, eyes are on Red Bull currently. Drivers like Cal Evans, Hudson Poole. We know Hudson is not the best qualifier here in Division 1, but his race pace is an absolute monstrosity, and he's proven that last season time and time and again. Just to finish running out the reserve drivers, Sanjay, besides Tinel and Freddie Rizal and Alpine, we have Mac for McLaren. So Nathan Doan is not racing tonight. Cam Bourne, who finished third in the Drivers' Championship last season, he's there tonight, so he'll bring in as many points as he can. Already with 1:14.0, he's actually 1,000th of a second behind Ryan Newton for the top 3 there. So Cam Bourne, who's I think he's on a mission for McLaren. Nathan Doan really pressed the right buttons in terms of Cam Bourne ever since he took over as a team principal last season. Cam Bourne has been absolutely on fire for that team, and no surprise that he was quickly picked up by McLaren again in the draft this season. And we also have, to conclude, the return, otherwise known as Bob Loblaw, Eric McNerney, here in P15, currently in Aston Martin. I think he picked up the game like last week and right away showed that, he's got that natural raw pace and could maybe get some decent points for Aston Martin here in Division 1. So really curious to see what kind of performance he could give us tonight.
Yeah, Eric, he was a former D1 driver, so he definitely belongs here once he gets up to speed. But yeah, he's very fresh on the game. I think we were doing 5-lappers. At least I was in the lobby with him when he was doing 5-lappers and just learning the game. So right away, I could tell he's getting faster at it. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do here. And yeah, as you were saying, Cam Bourne, I think he was honestly really under the radar last time around, and he's always been a good deliverer of good points for McLaren, which they're definitely going to need this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be something to keep an eye on. We're a little bit almost halfway through the qualifying, and the sun's kind of just beaming out of this, a little less overcast in regards to the weather. We're still looking at Quinton, and Quinton K is the only driver. Well, not anymore. I was gonna say
Not
Quinton
anymore.
K is the only driver in the 113s, but Hudson Poole just made the fastest lap at a 113.7. Quinton K is on an outlap currently, so there's a couple drivers out there going ahead on their fast laps, and probably have time for 3 fast laps in this short qualifying session. While we're looking at that real quick, Sanjay, what are the potential tire strategies upcoming for this race?
Honestly, we could see a medium hard here or a soft medium. I think it's really between those two. But you know, this is a track that's hard to overtake, and I think people are going to be really aggressive into these corners. And I think we can see some safety cars come out, and that'll throw a bunch of these strategies out the window. And it comes down to who gambles the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. The chicanes, we have the Villeneuve chicanes, and I forget the name of the other chicane, but mainly the Villeneuve chicanes basically are going to be the Villeneuve chicane of the first one, which is Trangardo and Tamburello, turns 2 and 4 between, and then 5 and 6 there. Really fast-paced left-right-handers. Was it last season? 2 seasons ago when Cody Lawrence was still racing. It was such a close race between him, Cody Lawrence, and Hudson Poole. And in those sections, the risk for contact is so high. And that's what happened basically to Villeneuve chicane. There was a contact between the Red Bull and the Mercedes. And post-race penalties were awarded in the end. So, you know, drivers really, like I mentioned earlier, they really have to pick and choose when and where they want to do those overtakes. And the beginning of this race could be a messy one because you have quite a distance between the start line into turn 1, where you have a very strong braking zone there, where it's a lot stronger than if you're on a fast lap. Like right now, if you're in a qualifying lap, you just barely hit the brakes a little bit and get into that corner, which during a race situation, especially if you're on the hards or the mediums, you can't just throw your car in there as is. So, you know, got to be a little bit careful about that and see what kind of situation we could get during this race. As there's a driver that went off there a little bit in sector 1.
It looks like Beamer or Anand might have had a moment coming out.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, these curbs on this track, they're brutal. If you get too much onto it, you're just bouncing all over the place. But you also need to get on the curb to kind of give you a bit of rotation where that lap time is. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be hard to overtake here, especially into turn 1 and 2, because track's not really wide for 2 cars to go through those corners.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just getting on board here with Ryan Newton, currently sitting P2. I'm wondering if he's going into the pits or if he's going for a fast lap. No, he's going into the pits.
I was going on the pits.
Who is behind him? It's Nick Hamrick, currently sitting P9. He doesn't have a lap. He's actually going to start a lap now. So, Sanjay, I suggest you let's go on board with Nick Hamrick here, a new pilot here for Williams this season in Division 1. He's heading to turn 1. Take it away, Sanjay.
Yeah, so Nick, I mean, one of my William drivers, he's going down right into turn 1, gets on the curb. It's crucial to get a good exit out of here. A lot of time is found. He did that really well. He's going into turn 5 and 6. It's just a lift, don't need a brake. Oh, as he has a little bit of moment coming out of 6. Now here, this is one of the trickiest corners on the track. It's really traction limited. He did well, uses the whole track. Goes up to turn 8 here, I think is what it is. And yeah, just make sure you're using all of the track and don't get on the curb too much and invalidate. Now, Aqua Minerali, this one is actually probably the hardest track, or the hardest corner. He does that well too. He's going up into the chicanes, and this is where you need to get all over the curbs to maximize the time here, and he does just that and stays well within the track limits. He's running down into turn 17 here. And this, you just need to get on the curb just a little bit to rotate the car. Same in the final corner. Make sure you don't invalidate by running too wide. And he keeps it clean as he comes and takes the shortest path to the line. And he puts in a 14.2 and pushes him up to 11th place.
14.2, it's a very respectable time. He had to struggle a little bit around turn 8. I just mentioned was a tricky corner, getting all the grip on, and he had to counter steer a couple times in the couple corners. Man, Sanjay, a couple times we're gonna ask drivers, what is the best corner in F1, and obviously you're gonna think about Eau Rouge and Maggots and Beckett's and Silverstone, but I think Aquamanalari is pretty an underrated corner. It is such a tricky corner to get, that right-handed uphill corner, and obviously trying to be so tight on the track limits as well. You just really riding that line, trying to go as wide as possible, get the best outright speed going up there, and I think it's just a fantastic corner.
Yeah, I'd say that's like the staple corner for this track. Everyone knows about it. And it is a tricky corner because you wanna make sure you're trying to go in as fast as possible, but it's so rear limited through there. It's easy to just have a little bit of a snap and spin out, but I mean that's where you need to find the time for these quali laps. Is push as hard as you can into that corner, and it's a good place to really find time there.
Absolutely. Sanjay, there's 2 minutes, a little bit over 2 minutes to go into the qualifying. So most drivers, as we're seeing now, are exiting the pits. It is the last fast lap they got to go. Quinton K is still sitting at a 1:13.8. He invalidated his second lap. So this is still his banker lap. We know he could improve on his time, as can most other drivers on the grid. So if I always had this bet with Nathan Doan, if he's listening to us tonight, he's gonna be happy to know that we're gonna keep this bet. I'll say I'm a nice Canadian person. I got a loonie. A loonie is a good $1 coin, because here our dollars are coins. And you got to bet that loonie, Mr. Sanjay. Who is your pole? Who are you betting on pole, basically? Got a whole
Honestly, loonie. I always think Quinton is probably one of the fastest qualifiers here, because I mean that's just what he does. You look at time trial, you look at how he practices. He is a one lap merchant. Whereas Hudson, I'd say, is the opposite. I mean, he's still fast over one lap, of course, but he's known for his race pace. So I'm going to put my money on Quinton. I think he's got time here.
Yeah, and he's going to be one of the first drivers across the line. Actually, his teammate, Josh Mulder, Wild Peros is probably known for everybody else. He's going to be the first one across the line. So he really wanted that clear space. So we'll keep an eye on how he's doing in regards to his time currently. Mulder here in Sector 1, and then it's going to be Quinton K. So both Haas's are going to try to improve their times. Mulder is already a full 10th ahead into Sector 1. That full 10th could gain him a couple of positions here, probably near the top 10, if he keeps on going like that. And he goes completely off the track. He definitely lost some time there. It doesn't look like he invalidated somehow. Probably because he lost enough time. So I don't know if he'll be able to...
Yeah, he might run into traffic, because there's a lot of cars at the end.
Oh, yeah.
There was, a lot of people were struggling to get their lap going.
Yep.
And I was worried for a moment, but it looks like everyone was going to start their lap.
Yeah, just 1 second. Oh, no, Mac was not able. Mac is the very last driver, and he did not have enough time. You see the flag next to him. Same thing with Nick Hamrick, who you see the flag next to him. Looks like he's... Well, he should be crossing the line now, actually. I don't know whether there's the flag next to him already.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that. Well, Wild Poros, I think he invalidated his lap. He went into the pit, so he's done. So we see Quinton. Quinton does not improve, so I lose my coin there.
Yeah. Well, he did improve, but not enough. There's 4 thousandths of a difference between him and Hudson Poole. So I mean, Hudson is improving, but just just slightly here. Marcel Pass gets P3 here in the Ferrari. We know Marcel has got crazy pace in that Ferrari in qualifying, and Ryan Newton takes provisional pole here at a 1:13.6. And we're going to have a Hudson Poole just coming around turns 17 here. Let's see if he's able to snatch the pole from the Mercedes driver. And he does. It is pole position for Hudson Poole. Marc-Olivier Passé is going to get third in the Mercedes. Who is next across the line? We have Cam Bourne, who's just about to go. And will he improve? No, he does not. And I believe I think it was Jack Fletcher at the very end that was able to cross the line and improve on his time. That is a Hudson Poole in pole position. We've not seen that in a while. What a qualifying, and look how close it is. It is a single tenth separating the top four here, Sanjay. Hudson Poole, Ryan Newton, Marc-Olivier Bastin in the top three, both Mercedes drivers 2 and 3. It is the Haas of Quentin K P4, Marcel Paus sits P5. What a great qualifying performance for Magnussen Cube, a great qualifier in the AlphaTauri this season. P6, Camborne P7, Eric Cavallo, a bit of a disappointment for him. We're used to seeing him higher up in the grid. He's currently
Right.
P8. Brandon Bechtel in the Aston Martin, new driver for them. Replacement of Aaron Altmaier, P9, Freddie Rizal, P10, Maxime Beaulieu, Anand Trivedi, Nick Hamrick, and Josh Mulder, Tinel, who's the replacement driver in Alpine tonight. Eric McNerney gets P16, and then we saw, I think it was Cal Blevins.
I think it was Cal. Yeah.
Yeah, Cal Blevins in P16, and I forget who was P18. I think that was maybe, we'll find out in just a second.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Mercedes 2 and 3, and one of their drivers is a P10 pick. I'm surprised Ryan was able to go that low. I think Mercedes got probably had the best draft for D1 with picking up Marc-Olivier Bastien and Ryan. Though I mean they're really quick drivers. Ryan was competing for podiums last season.
Yeah.
And went 10th pick. That's a steal for Mercedes, and you can see that now. It's starting P2 and P3.
Listen, I was watching that draft. I was sitting at home, and seeing Ryan Newton just drop down the draft order was absolutely criminal. There's no other way to describe it. I don't understand how that driver is a 10th pick only. I know the drivers in front of him they're all great drivers. It's nothing against them, but Ryan Newton was so close to getting his first win in Japan last season. He got pole a couple times. He had a really great race in Singapore. You know, he's a driver who's really matured in his racecraft over the last couple seasons. He's a driver who probably had the etiquette of with a tag of being, you know, not dirty, just maybe too aggressive in certain overtakes. He has cleaned up his overtaking action a lot since last season. His qualifying pace is up there. For me, he's easily a top 5 or top 6 in Division 1, but that's what Division 1 is, right? It's just, it doesn't take much to be a top 3 driver or dropping down the order to be a top 10 driver. That's a close grid. It really is a close grid. And but yeah, I think Ryan Newton is putting himself in a position to not only support Marco Bastien, because I think it goes without saying that Bastien is probably one of the strongest contenders for the championship this season.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised Ryan gets his win this season. He was so close last season. He's going to get it for sure.
Yeah, and Hudson right now is kind of alone up here. His teammate Kyle didn't qualify that well. He's down in, I think, P17 or something. So yeah, he's got it's a 2v1 right now. Both Mercedes are just going to be looking down to make sure that try to get Hudson to make a mistake and capitalize on it. But they can try using some strategies to try to make sure that they can maximize a good result here.
Yeah. And if you're Marco Bastien, I think there's a little bit of a delay for the race start here, waiting for the drivers to get set up here. If you're Marco Bastien, you're starting P2, you probably have the advantage. Depending on the race launch, if you get a good start and you're able to put yourself right behind Hudson Poole, you might have the slipstream to go to turn 1. The red lights are out, and right away the Imola Grand Prix is underway. And it's a great start, both from Hudson Poole and Ryan Newton. However, the Mercedes driver, he's got the advantage currently. Will he be able to get into P1? The inside corner goes to Hudson Poole. There's oh my goodness! Wow, there's what a contact there was in the back. I think Quentin K is completely dropped down the order. I think I'm shocked there's not more damage. Yeah. And there's multiple drivers. Oh wow, there's at least 5-6 drivers tumbling down the order right there after turn 1. I am surprised there hasn't been a DNF or a safety car in this kind of situation.
Car, yeah. Look at AlphaTauri right now. P4, P5. They capitalized on that spin or whatever happened. Maxime is up 6 positions, as well as Eric McNerney, first race back, 8 positions up in 8th place.
Absolutely wild start to this race. Yeah, AlphaTauri, great start. Same thing for Aston Martin, but it's a complete disaster for Haas. And this is one of the things we were careful about Quentin K this season. Yeah, he got picked 3rd overall, but we got to stay away from those kind of situations. But, you know, this is what Imola is. Turn 1 usually ends in disaster. We've seen this time and time and again. all in all, it's Hudson Poole leading the race from Ryan Newton and Marc-Olivier Bastien. Kyle Blevins just overtakes Jack Fletcher for P12, the Red Bull driver, climbing up the standings slowly and surely. I'm just going to check which drivers are going into the pits right now.
Everyone stays out.
Everyone stays out. I'm rather surprised. I'm not seeing drivers with a lot of damage on their cars or anything. Yet, that view I saw cars tumbling over each other. So,
right.
Yeah, I guess ghosting worked in this kind of situation.
Yeah, I saw so many cars just like perpendicular to the track. I'm surprised everyone got out with no damage there. But yeah, I mean, big loser right now, or losers, I'd say, is Quinton K, Cam Bourne, and Era after good qualifying. Now from finding themselves in the bottom 5. A lot of fast drivers down there. Even Marcel Pabst in 13th place, down 8th positions. They're gonna try to come back and make their way through the field. But yeah, right now the Mercedes are pretty close to Hudson, I'd say. Making sure that he doesn't pull away, but they already have a good gap on P4 and P5.
Yeah, it's really interesting what's happened between those two drivers, because although it was Marco Bastien that started in P2, we're seeing Ryan Newton all over the rear of Hudson Poole and potentially trying to make a move for the lead, and I think he's going to make it happen. There he goes, and that is a new race leader here with Ryan Newton, and there's a sector yellow flag in the back. It is Jack Fletcher who's triggered a virtual safety car. Brandon Bechtel is in the pits, by the way, so there was a contact. There was a situation that happened over there. Let's see if Brendan has to replace his wing. Yes, he does. So he had damage on his wing. Had to replace it, and I do believe it'll be the same thing for Jack Fletcher. Yes, indeed. And so just after overtaking for the virtual for the race lead, a virtual safety car kind of slows the pace down, and now Ryan Newton finds himself having to defend from Hudson Poole. It's maybe a good thing in a sense for Marco Bastien, because he had used a lot of battery just to be third in the situation that he was in, and so we'll see how he could harvest the battery from then.
Nick Hamrick picks up a drive-through penalty.
Nick Hamrick and Mac.
I think Mac.
Yeah, we're seeing both drivers. Let me just go check what it is. Yeah, drive-through penalties. So at the end of the virtual safety car, the drivers are trying to get back up to speed, and so they gambled a little bit too hard. Nick Hamrick and Mac are two drivers with drive-through penalties that need to be served under the next 2 or 3 laps. So correct me if I'm wrong, Sanjay.
I think it's 3 laps. Yeah, so within 3 laps you got to do it.
There you go. So you got 3 laps to go, and they have to serve a drive-through. That will definitely harm their race, as we're seeing multiple drivers falling off the order completely. We got a pack of 3 on the podium positions right now. Ryan Newton keeping his first position nonetheless after the long straight. Afterwards, it is Magnussen Cube and Maxime Beaulieu. We've not seen Maxime in such a high position here in ZRL, but I've seen him in other leagues, and he's definitely got the potential. Look at him being in P5. I don't want to give him a broadcaster's curse, but that is a great start for the race for him and his AlphaTauri teammate.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure AlphaTauri is feeling a little bit of a pressure here, seeing where they're at right now, just outside the podium places, but I mean, I think DRS is activated, so I think we're gonna start seeing. I don't know if like Ryan and Hudson and Mark, I don't know if they're gonna really aggressively try to overtake each other. I think they might just work together, move themselves along to make a big enough pack from the rest of the field, so that when they do start fighting, no one can third party them, you could say.
Yeah, absolutely right, Sanjay. It's something we've seen all over the last season. Whether it be with Hudson Poole and Era or Marco Bastien or other drivers. Honestly, I think that's what we're going to see. We're probably going to see the Red Bull overtake for P1 by the end of this long straight, although I'm not quite sure that's going to happen now. But, they're going to stick within DRS, and that's really what distinguishes Division 1 to other divisions here in ZRL. The patience of these drivers for their race wins they got to have. They're just going to carry along in the DRS zone, get themselves up in position, and they're going to wait till the end of the race, or almost, to really begin striking and putting pressure on the driver. You really try to get down. I mean, one of the biggest factors in Division 1 here is the mental capacities. As we're seeing Quinton K get a 3-second time penalty. That's what I mean when I talk about mental capacities. When you're under pressure, you don't have the race start you want, and you want to get back up in the grid as much as possible. Well, mistakes like these will cost you a lot. A 3-second time penalty on such a close grid is quite costly. Although I'm not sure he's going to be the only driver getting a time penalty for track limits. We are very much on the limits of track limits here on Imola. Most drivers are anyways.
Yeah, this is like one of those tracks where you just want to make sure you try to drive as clean as possible, because if everyone else is going to get penalties around you and say a late safety car comes out, you make a lot of positions up.
Absolutely. There's
But
been a battle in the middle of the pack, Sanjay, with T-Nail and Eric McNerney, two reserve drivers. And I think we can see Eric McNerney make a move as Maxime Beaulieu does a switch with his teammate Magnussen Q. And yeah, Eric McNerney, he's going to go for it on the outside of T-Nail and the Alpine. And that is going to be P7 for a guy who just picked up this game like 2 weeks ago, barely. Mike was his position in the next... no, I think Tino's going to be patient about it, and he definitely does so. Eric McNerney showing everybody that he has still got it after not racing for nearly 3 months, I believe. He's on track, and he's doing great.
Yeah, and I saw his light blinking too, so glad to see his old characteristics of driving is still there, with no ERS left at the very beginning of the race. Really, that's a classic McNerney thing.
Absolutely, he's very aggressive on the battery, but he's making the moves happen, climbing up to P7 currently, keeping a track on the top 3 still. I mean, Ryan Newton's still keeping Hudson Poole at bay, as is the Red Bull driver doing so with Bastien, the other Mercedes. Other than that, we're not seeing the AlphaTauris really gaining much on the top 3. I think they're, really using the DRS to carry each other. There's probably doing a lot of teamwork for that, and that'll be really interesting. We might end up with a battle of AlphaTauris versus Mercedes at some point during this race.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing to look at here too is like Ryan's got some serious pace here on those mediums, and I think Hudson knows that, and he's just trying to make sure he just gets pulled along with this DRS that Ryan is providing on those hard tires and go long, and maybe even hope a safety car at the end. But I mean, the faster strategy should be the hard medium, because getting onto those medium tires at the end, you'll have a lot more pace. So yeah, I think Hudson's just, he's playing it smart here, not being too aggressive on Ryan, and they're also making sure that the AlphaTauris are kept in check and not trying to get too close. But it looks like Mark is really losing. He's out of touch now. He's out of DRS. He's made a couple mistakes here, which is uncharacteristic for Mark. He's usually probably one of the fastest drivers here, along with Hudson and Quinton and Era. All these like big D1 names. But it's unusual to see him drop off like that this early in the race. He's probably... No, I wouldn't say the AlphaTauris are going to get close to him. There's already a 2-second gap between them, but this is turning into a 2-horse race right now.
Yeah, he's definitely dropped off quite a lot, and I think that's when Hudson Poole is going to decide to make his move, and he does so just before getting to turn 1 into the braking zone. He's going to outbrake his opponent, and here he goes. Back in the lead he goes, Hudson Poole, who started from pole position. Ryan Newton still in P2, and you're right, Sanjay. Looks like Bastien lost a little bit of time. He's definitely out of the DRS zone from his teammate, and so he's not able to put Hudson Poole under pressure, and he might find himself sooner than later under pressure by the AlphaTauris, although there is a 2-second gap between them both. We'll keep an eye on that. So far, it's a bit of a DRS train, and it's mixed up in the midfield, because there's a nice DRS train, and on Trivedi, he's currently P6. He's racing on his own, and oh, there's a McLaren that's gone completely off. Is that Mac?
I think so. Yeah, Mac's gone around.
Completely lost it in turn 2 there. Doesn't look like he's got damage. I think the gravel did its job there. But yeah, the reserve driver for Nathan Doan here, not really having a difficult race so far. We're only on lap 8 though, so anything could happen. Let's see if we're going to have the game of chicken as we're used to seeing between top 2 drivers here, as was all of last season. I'm not sure if Ryan Newton... No, it doesn't look like Ryan Newton is going to go for the lead here. But don't be surprised if they switch it. Yeah, they do have a lot of battery, definitely.
Yeah, you can see Mark is really struggling with it, because he's at 28% right now, and he's trying to use it to catch back up. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Hudson and Ryan right now are kind of they're in their own league compared to the rest.
Yeah, quite a spectacular performance from the top two drivers so far.
As we
Doesn't
see an
look,
overtake from
yeah.
Cal on Eric McNerney,
Oh,
and he gets it
absolutely.
done.
Yeah, it looks like McNerney lost a couple positions. He was fighting with Tnell for P7 and now find himself P10. Wouldn't be surprised if that is due to lack of battery, as Marcel Paps and Cal Blevins get past him. So there's a DRS train going there from P7 all the way down to, oh, there's a Eric McNerney. Oh, there's a
Oh, Eric
broadcaster's
McNerney's out.
curse. I just had to mention his name, and he went right off there. And I think he's experienced something that in this F123 game we all have to experience and adapt to. It is the tire degradation that is, it just smacks you quite suddenly at some point.
Right.
So that, seeing a couple drivers have a spin there with Mac and Eric McNerney, we got to ask ourselves, Sanjay, when will the drivers start thinking about pitting?
I mean, the medium tires, I'm not too sure when the drop off happens. I want to say around lap 14, maybe. Oh, I think Camborne went wide. Oh no, it's a Red Bull. Cal went wide into turn 2, or out of turn 2. Sorry, and now he's dropped all the way down to 14th. But yeah, I think the mediums, they're gonna think about pitting soon. And undercut here could be really strong, especially with all these high traction corners. A fresh set of tires can bring them a lot of time and try to get them track position.
Yeah, I think, and there might be an undercut game being played between Hudson Poole and Ryan Newton that could be in play there. Concerning Cal Blevins, sadly for him, he looked like he went a little bit wide into turn 1. He definitely had, I think it was the Alpine of Tino that was on the inside of turn 1 there, and trying to avoid an incident, he went right across, and getting back on track, he spun it out from the rears. Didn't have enough traction there. As you mentioned earlier, Sanjay, some of these corners here, the sausage curves especially, completely destabilize your cars and really make it difficult to keep it on track once you get over them.
Yeah. Well, the Alpha tires are starting to get kind of close together. I'm wondering if they're going to start fighting. Hopefully not. They might be in the same call and they're working together, but that's like the last thing they should be doing, I think, if they're trying to maximize the points they're going to get for their team.
Well, you've seen them do a switch up in the main DRS zone. There's only one DRS zone here in Imola on the main straight, and so we saw Beaulieu and Cube do a little bit of a switch up here and there. Looks like Maxime has got more pace than Magnussen Cube so far, being on the mediums. Eventually, I think Magnussen is going to have the pace. And, we're having a bit of an issue again. That is twice. I think Eric McNerney finds himself speeding in the pit lane. And yeah, that is he's learning the job, and it's going to be a tough one. I'm wondering if he's going back into the pits for another change of tires, but also change of front wing. And it is okay. So when he spun out, this is what happens for sure. He spins out, damages his wing, goes into the pits, and of course the game decides to not switch the front wing. So he's back out there.
Yeah.
Twice he gets a 5-second time penalty. He finds himself overlapped. So blue flags will be waved at him as he exits the pit lane right now. So it's going to be a tough race for McNerney here, trying to get back into it. You really hope for a safety car. But yeah, Division 1, haven't raced here in a while, shows off incredible pace, but a little bit more difficult for him as of late here, getting in terms with some of the game's quirks, as we're going to call them.
Right, and I mean, he's calibrating. He's I'm pretty sure he will be racing a lot more. We'll probably see him a lot more in D1. But better to get it out of the way now than later. All these mistakes. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be surprised when he starts really putting out good results, as he usually does in D1. As a lot of people are starting to pick up time penalties, as Marcel Pabst was the most recent victim to it. And that's going to be pretty crucial, especially if a safety car comes out late.
Yeah, and this is a fast-paced track, so a 3-second time penalty means considerably. 3-second time penalty to Marcel Pabst currently can be see him dropping on down to P9, potentially. So yeah, we've got 4 drivers with track limit penalties so far, and we're not even halfway through the race yet. So that's something that we could see. There's been another switch or there was a switch before apparently, because Magnussen Cube was in front of Beaulieu, but they switched it up again in the main straight. So the two AlphaTauri drivers are trying to feed off of each other's DRS, hopefully to catch up to Marc-Louis Bastin, who's really just falling off the pace to Hudson and Ryan Newton so far. Newton is 6/10 behind the race leader currently. None of them drivers are using their battery at all. It's really interesting to see.
Yeah, like Hudson and Ryan are just sitting on max capacity. Honestly, they don't need to. Right now, they're in the management phase, right? Of like normal, even in IRL F1 races, it's always that management phase in a race. And they're kind of in that place right now where they just want to see who's going to make the first move. It's going to be Ryan because he's on those medium tires. He's going to go into the pits first. And then I think you're going to start seeing Hudson push with that battery to make sure he doesn't get undercut.
Yeah, that's very good analysis there. We've got a sector in yellow flag in sector 1.
Looks like it's a McLaren.
Yeah, it's Mac there. I had a bit of a spin. Oh, Mac's fuel light is on. We're lap 14, so we have a potential driver that could be. He's definitely gonna have to lift and coast there. Eric Mignoni with the fastest lap of the race so far, and Maxime Beaulieu is gonna try an undercut. He's in the pits.
Yeah, so now we'll start seeing a bunch of people pit to try to cover him off. I think first person will be Mark. Mark will make sure that he doesn't get undercut by Maxime here, so he's gonna go into the pits most likely next lap. Maybe even actually no, it might be Ryan's decision. If Ryan goes in, Mark will have to stay out because they can't double stack. So it's gonna be interesting who's gonna dive into the pits here.
Well, at this point, Hudson Poole could decide to dive into the pits, maybe to force Ryan Newton to come in with him to cover off the undercut. And that, like you mentioned, that might cause issues for Marco Bastin. So we got to keep an eye on the top 3 drivers here in regards to their pit strategies. Marco's definitely pushing a lot more on the battery. Hudson Poole is around turn 17. He's not going to the pits. There's a sector flag.
Mac retired. Oh, but he retired in the pits.
Okay, so that's what it was. It's Mac that retired, and Marco Bastin. So Bastin is in the pits.
Right,
Magnussen Cube is going to get a podium position, so we'll see where he comes out. Is he going to come out in front or behind Maxime Beaulieu? Maxime Beaulieu, who's just coming around turn 16 now, 16 and 17, but it's a long way out of this pit lane.
Yeah, another thing here is that they're going to be behind traffic, and traffic will really slow you down here. It looks like Mark will be able to get a good bit of clean air as long as his Aston Martin stays behind, which it doesn't. So now he's behind Brendan Bechtel, who's also a really quick driver, also pretty uncharacteristic to see him down here. But yeah, he's behind Brendan Bechtel. He's got a bit of clean air. He can try to make his way, but he actually covers off the undercut from Maxime there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a couple drivers that went in early on the pits. If you're looking at a couple drivers that are, like you mentioned, it's uncharacteristic of them to be so far down on the grid. Obviously, there's a pit strategies being played out. Go like at Quentin Kay and Brendan Bechtel. Eric Cavallo so far, he's been midfield so far this race, and that's not something we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I just had that unlucky, I guess, event or incident in turn 1 that really put him in a bad spot to start the race with. And no safety car, only a virtual safety car, which really doesn't close the pack in. So he has to make up all that time again. So a bunch of people diving into the pit. Ryan dives into the pit, as well as Magnussen Cube and Tennell.
Tennell gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in a pit lane. Unfortunate for him, that's gonna harm his race because he was doing really well. Let's not forget, this is a Division 2 driver who was racing in the top 8.
Yeah, and I mean Tennell, that was also a very sleeper pick. We haven't really seen him. This is his first time racing in ZRL, and he was 18th pick in D2 and goes out and gets P2 at Saudi Arabia. So Alpine pulled a really good driver and gambled on Tennell, and it's working, and now he's reserving for them here. And yeah, I think he's right now driving a pretty good race. So as right now, provisionally, he's in top 10. So hopefully he can deliver on that.
Yeah, I think Ethan Patel would be very content with a D2 reserve driver outperforming his, well, I wouldn't say outperforming because currently Freddy Rizal is in P5, but definitely putting himself in a position to bring in some points for Alpine.
Yeah, and now we're actually starting to see some battery being used by Hudson and Ryan to make sure that Ryan's going to make sure he wants to get that track position with the undercut he's trying to put. But yeah, now we're gonna see when will Hudson pit and where will he come out. He could come out behind both the Mercedes if the undercut's that strong.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an interesting one to look at. What's even more interesting, Ryan Newton comes out of the pits and he's just ahead of his teammate. The undercut almost worked for Marco Bastet, but he finds himself back into the DRS of his teammate. So that was probably the best move for Marco Bastet given the circumstances.
Yeah, and I mean, made sure the AlphaTauris also didn't get ahead, and now he's within DRS of Ryan, who's been really quick. He can try to get Ryan to pull him along. Honestly, I can see both the Mercedes get track position over Hudson here because those hard tires are definitely not as fast as these fresh ones they got, and yeah, we'll see when Hudson makes the decision to go in. He could go in now. Oh yeah, there he is. He's going in now.
All right, so that's what we're going to be keeping an eye on. We know he's in the pits. He's switching to the mediums. Let's get on board with Ryan Newton. He's just out of that last chicane there, and P turns, I think that's 13 or 14, 15. Around 16 he goes. Hudson's tires are switched, so he is on the exit of that pit lane, and on the battery he goes. Ryan Newton down the main straight. We're going to see a Red Bull coming out of the pit lane, but it looks like it's going to be the Mercedes ahead. And looks just like barely. And is Mako ahead as well? And he is. So Hudson Poole finds himself behind both Mercedes. That undercut worked really well for both of them. And that was 2 laps earlier for the undercut for Mako Bastet.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly what I mean, where it's a 2v1 now. Mercedes are happy to try like boxing earlier and see what kind of undercut they get. They can try it out, and yeah, this really gave a Mercedes the advantage. But now you see Hudson on those fresh mediums with pretty much full battery. I think Mark is going to be under a ton of pressure here, but now it's just try to create a gap for Ryan to get ahead while Mark tries to defend against Hudson here. And if Ryan can break DRS, this is going to be that much harder for Hudson to try to get that win.
Well, here's the question now: is does Ryan want to break the DRS on his teammate? Because if he does, that leaves Bastet completely vulnerable on the main straight.
Yeah, and I think that's just gonna come down to their engineers. They got like 20 engineers helping them out. And it just comes down to what decision they want to make. Do they want to try to get this 1-2? Or do you think it's worth trying to keep Hudson back? But that's not holding Hudson back. He's going to make the overtake easily on Mark. And he's within DRS of Ryan here. As Mark is going to try to come back, but he chooses to stay behind.
Absolutely. So in this kind of situation, you want Mark to be on the attack mode to make sure to delay the tactic there on Ryan Newton. So, that's a team game that they get to play. And there's a sector flag with Alex in the main straight.
Yeah, I saw Tanel just go completely straight at that like little right-hander kink on the straight, and he went into the gravel, and I think he's missing an end plate. He's going really slow into turns 1 and 2. He's completely off the track. Yeah, he's definitely got a problem in that car.
He's got damage. He definitely has damage. Something happened in the main straight. I don't know if he made contact with a wall or with
as a Ferrari's around. Marcel Pabst.
Oh yeah, Marcel Pabst went completely around there up on the in the Minerali corner, turns 9 and 10, and doesn't look there's any damage on the Ferrari, but he's got the oldest tires out there. He's got 18 laps on those hards. I'm wondering if he's trying to make a hard to soft kind of strategy, would just take advantage of really performant mediums, as a couple drivers out there on track are racking up penalties. Eric McNerney also got a track penalty. We just saw Marcel Pabst get one, Eric Cavallo as well, and Freddy Rizal was one of the latest ones to get it. So time penalties in the midfield so far is very, very important. And as I'm telling you about penalties, Hudson Poole goes for the lead. He had the DRS on Ryan Newton, and we're back at square one from the beginning of this race, where both of these drivers kept exchanging leads, but this time they're definitely more aggressive on their battery usage.
Yeah, I think this is now the fight for the race. They got 12 laps, 13 laps really to duke it out. There's a bit of a gap to the AlphaTauris. They're having a great race. They know what's at stake here. P4, P5 is an amazing haul of points for them. Um, and I mean they're 4 seconds out from Mark, so I think Ryan and Hudson are gonna try to really fight for this, and Mark is just gonna try to just linger around to make sure he can pick up any scraps that can happen here.
Yeah, sadly for Mark, he doesn't have the pace tonight. He's lost out on DRS from his teammates. So even if Hudson Poole and Ryan Newton get fighting, well, he's back in a position that he was in earlier. So the undercut worked out great for him. He just didn't have give himself the opportunity to really make the most of it. As of now, as you say, he may be able to pick up some scraps if the top two are get into fighting. Gotta say, AlphaTauri, seeing them still being in P4 and P5 and working together and really setting themselves apart from the rest of the grid so far, absolutely spectacular on both of them.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, they're doing a good job with, like, they had a fortunate turn one, you could say, but you have to maximize what you're given. So, and they're doing that, and you can see Quinton is all the way up in P6. I'm not sure if he definitely pitted, so you might be just trying to take these tires all the way to the end. And from where he was at the beginning of the race, this would be a good recovery.
And speaking of recovery, yeah, we're looking at Quinton K. He's. I think he's got a really aggressive setup on his Haas there, because a couple times I've seen him fighting his Haas. I know he likes them aggressive and twitchy setups. I think we've seen him a couple times on the broadcast so far. His rear just a little bit all over the place there.
Yeah, I feel like he always tries to get his setup quali trim, which is why he's always really quick in quali. But that compromises the race a little bit, because it's so easy to make a mistake, especially in a track like Imola, where it's not forgiving once you do make the mistake. There's gravel immediately right next to the curb, and it's going to slow you down a lot.
Absolutely. Josh Mulder, his Haas partner, currently sitting P9, the latest driver to get a 3-second time penalty, and that hurts him twice as much, because he's getting completely under fire by Williams of Eric Cavallo and Cal Blevins all over his gearbox going into turns 1 and 2. Cal, who's way more aggressive, and with that time penalty, that puts Josh Mulder right up on par with the other drivers behind him. He had that penalty advantage, even if he got overtaken by drivers behind him, to at least say, hey, you guys got a penalty and I don't. But he definitely just grabbed one, and everybody behind him, it's fair game to fight for him. And there's a bit of a pack being created from Josh Mulder down to P12. Freddie Rizal's not too far off, so when those three drivers are going to be fighting, Freddie Rizal will be there to pick up the scraps. And what's also interesting, and I'm rather surprised by that strategy, and I don't think it's going to last much longer, Brendan Bechtel on softs.
Yeah, I don't know if that soft tires will it could. I think it can make it to the end, but they're not going to feel so great. And I don't know if he's going to be able to really overtake. He has to really get close to Freddie here in the next couple laps. Otherwise, the softs are going to die out. But up in first place, they're out of battery now. Hudson and Ryan, they've been really using it up, and yeah, they're really pushing for it.
So officially, and speaking of pushing for it, Cal Blevins does a second overtake in 2 laps here. Cal Blevins is now in the top 10, well, in P9 actually, but he's completely used up his battery. That opens the door maybe for the drivers behind us. Freddie Rizal is showing some pace. He's joined a group with the usage of DRS, and he's maybe find himself fighting for Eric Cavallo soon enough in P11, and his lights is blinking, so they're all using their battery very aggressively. There's 9 laps to go here in Imola in this race. It's been a really good race so far. We've see Hudson Poole, who's leading the race, and Ryan Newton on the hards. I think he's starting to miss out on pace, because by the time he gets to turn 17 on that main straight, he's 7/10 out. The DRS is only barely keeping him alive here. Right?
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious what kind of setups these drivers are running, especially the overtaking happens on the straight. So some drivers might be running a lower trim, like lower downforce trim, but that could also be affecting how I don't know how the Mercedes is set up, but Yeah, just not enough to try to overtake Hudson here.
Maybe towards the end of the race, we'll see a difference in performance between the mediums and the hards.
Mhm.
Maybe to favor Ryan Newton a little bit, but so far it looks like Hudson Poole is in control of this. Because as we see, every time he gets to around turn 1, there's about a 2 to 3 tenths gap between him and Ryan Newton. Once he gets around turn 17 and into that main straight with the DRS, there's over 7 tenths difference, and that's not enough for Ryan Newton to catch up to him completely. So we're on board with Ryan with the Hudson Poole right now. If you look at it, he's just under 8 tenths, and Ryan Newton, by the time he does get on DRS, I don't think he's going to use the battery.
Yeah, I think he's just gonna try to harvest as much as he can right now to mount an attack towards the later end of the race, because I'm not sure how hard the mediums will drop off. I'm not sure they will by the end of the race, but they'll be. I think the hard tires and the mediums will probably be pretty close, and it's just really gonna come down to just how much energy do the drivers have left. And right now they're pretty much identical. It's crazy how much they're using, pretty much the same amount. So the DRS, it could help, but yeah, I mean Hudson's doing everything he can to just stay ahead. Yeah, and as we were talking, Cal and Josh have been just swapping positions, and they're almost went to side by side through turns 5 and 6. It's pretty, the fight over there is getting pretty feisty for that P9 spot. It's attracting a lot more drivers into this train.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw Freddie Rizal now overtaking Eric Cavallo for P11, so that the 4 drivers are giving it their all so far. There are 7 laps to go here in Imola. It's Hudson Poole in P1, followed by 2 Mercedes, Ryan Newton and Marc-Olivier Bastet. Great performance so far with the AlphaTauris in P4 and P5. Quentin K is driving a great recovery race, although it might be harmed by his 3-second time penalty. As Cam Bourne is P7, with that penalty, he would be P6 because of the penalty given to Quentin. And we're getting around lap turn 17. Let's keep an eye on these 4 drivers. Let's go on Freddie Rizal's point of view here. He's currently sitting P11. He's on the battery, on the DRS. There's a flag in the back. I think that is Jack Fletcher, who's lost it in turn 16. And there's going to be another overtake. This is Josh Mulder. They're going to go side by side with Caleb Levis. Freddie's going to try to take advantage of this situation. He's going side by side with Josh Mulder. And will he be able to make it work? He's very aggressive here into the next corners, and he's going to make it work.
Wow, that was really aggressive from Fred there. And Josh will be... Oh, Josh spun out.
Yeah, Josh Mulder was just pushed out. I think Eric Cavallo tried taking advantage of that situation. And I don't know if it's Josh. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Era or Freddie, but look, he got pushed out on the outside curve on the Villeneuve chicane in turn 6, and yeah, those curves are deadly, and definitely was not able to get back on track properly and spun out. Luckily for him, no damage, but he finds himself P13. He was really doing a good race for the first time D1 driver here, former D2 driver last season. He was having a great race.
Yeah, it's not really unfortunate for him, but I mean, if it's a ticketable event, I'll get to see it later. But yeah, unfortunate for Josh there. He was driving a good race, and that was kind of a fun battle to watch. But now it's turned into a 3-way fight between Cal, Freddie, and Era. We know Era's quick, but he's on I don't know, he's on the same old tires as Cal is. So it's surprised to see him not be able to try to overtake Freddie and Cal here. Just shows you how close D1 really is.
Absolutely. It was a high-risk kind of area to make some overtakes happen there. So they went for it. Sadly for Josh Mulder, he paid the price there. But as you mentioned, it's turned into a 3-way battle so far. You know, we're keeping tabs on the top 2 with 5 laps to go. Hudson Poole is still leading. Ryan Newton is trying to keep Hudson Poole as close to him as possible, and they're definitely harvesting their batteries, which currently is at the advantage of Ryan Newton, and he's got a little bit closer. I think we might be seeing a change of pace between Hudson Poole's tires and Ryan Newton's. He's a lot closer than he was earlier, as last time we were on board with them. He's able to close the gap during that main straight, but not enough. However, Hudson Pool's been a little bit more aggressive on the battery. 4 laps to go now, so we'll see how these two fare out. Let's go back here. Keep an eye on Cal, Era, and Freddy. Let's see if Freddy's going to be able to get the speed to catch up to Cal. Doesn't seem to be it this time. He's definitely dragging Era with him, along with him. And I'm really still kind of shocked to see Eric Cavallo P11. That's not something we used to see. I don't know if he was maybe caught up in that incident in turn 1. This race,
yeah, he was.
That might explain a lot, because it's difficult. It's very difficult here in Imola on race pace alone to catch up to everybody and get the back in the positions. As you can see, the DRS is extremely important. I think one of the drivers on this grid who's had probably the most loneliest race ever is Anand Trivedi. He's been in between DRS trains this entire race. You know, kept it clean, hasn't found himself in terrible situations, hasn't found himself with penalties for the track limits. However, Cal Blevins is just on the brink of breaking DRS, 1 second DRS, probably next lap. I don't think it'll happen this lap. So he's really fighting to keep that pack of drivers behind him away from him. They might be in attack zone within the next couple laps.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end here, when you're in a DRS pack, the DRS pack is usually pretty fast. As I think Fred and Cal almost came together. Cal is actually off the track. Fred takes the spot, and Era goes past Cal too. And that's going to slow him down. Beamer's probably really glad that happened, because that gave him a bit more of breathing space.
Oh, I'm really curious to see how that happened. I didn't catch it on the broadcast, and if that was a Freddy versus Cal contact, again...
Yeah, we're going to hear about it.
Oh, we're going to hear about it all week long, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, I mean, another place to look at right now, Cam Bourne is all over the back of Quinton. Honestly, he might take the spot. He's looking to maybe go for an overtake into the chicanes, which I'm sure he's just feinting, because the DRS straight is where it's supposed to happen. Yeah, I think we're going to see an overtake from Cam here, and he's got no penalties, so this is his position, even if it ends like this.
Yeah, Cam's going to have the opportunity for the overtake in the main straight. Meanwhile, in the main straight, Ryan Newton is back in the lead with 2 laps to go. It's Ryan Newton versus Hudson Pool for the race win. They are so far ahead of everybody else. This is giving me PTSD from Cody Lawrence versus Hudson Pool. A very similar kind of race, which ended with a Hudson Pool win on track, which was eventually reverted because of the contact with him versus Cody Lawrence. So we'll keep an eye on those two drivers. Now on the battery levels, they're very, very similar. So that'll be really interesting and exciting end to this race. And somehow, Sanjay, Cam Bourne is still behind Quinton K, who's fighting for his life for that P6 position despite the penalty.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see, but I think Quinton's running out of battery here. So eventually one of these laps, I think Cam is going to be able to get there. But yeah, I mean, going back to Ryan and Hudson, this is where who does the best at managing their energy. I think Hudson is looking for a move right now, and I think he gets it done. Yeah, they're just going to keep swapping spots. But maybe Hudson might have done it a little too early here, because it's hard to overtake until the straight again, and they only have to do it one more time. Which, you know, I feel like Ryan right now has the advantage, unless Hudson can try to pull away in this tighter sections of the track.
That's going to be a really tough one to keep an eye on. We're going to have to keep track of that kind of situation. I think there's a switch of position. Yeah, there's an overtake here. The Williams of Eric Cavallo finally putting himself in P9 ahead of Freddie Rizal. Cal Blevins not too far behind those drivers. And they might find themselves in attack mode. Actually, Eric finds himself in attack mode on Trivedi. So finally, Anand Trivedi might see some action during this race, because he hasn't seen anything so far this race. Or almost nothing. But the main story, the main thing we're keeping an eye on, and rather shockingly, Hudson Pool being very aggressive on the battery, as well as Ryan Newton.
Yeah, I think he's about to get a DRS from the back marker here, which actually might save him.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see.
Will Hudson Pool have DRS?
I think he just misses out, and this is now everyone is gonna be dumping into turn one. Ryan's got a ton of overspeed here. Hudson goes a bit aggressive on the defense, but Ryan gets ahead and he takes the lead of the race. And honestly, all the overtaking opportunities are gone. So now it's Ryan's to defend this.
It is going to be basically a drag race till the end, and Hudson Pool is going to go in full attack mode. We are on board with the Red Bull driver. It is the final lap here, the Imola Grand Prix. Ryan Newton is defending for his life for potentially his first ZRL win here in Division 1. He's doing everything. He's done everything since last season to make it happen. Now all he has to do is defend from the Hudson Hornet. It's an absolutely crucial and tall order from the kid, but he is making it happen so far as we're heading into the final chicane here in Imola. It is turned 16 and 17, and the opportunity for overtaking from the Red Bull driver is starting to dwindle down and become almost impossible. They're dumping batteries, they're using everything they got, they're making their cars give them everything they got, and Ryan Newton comes across turn 17. Will the Red Bull be able to catch him by the finish line? And he does it. Ryan Newton is a first Grand Prix winner here at Zoom Racing League. He finally gets his win. We spoke about it earlier this stream, Sanjay. It is a Mercedes 1-3 podium. Absolutely great performance from Ryan Newton. Hudson Pool finds himself P2. An absolutely crucial and important points. I would call that a win in their books. Magnus and Q, Mexican you're P4, P5. I don't remember the last time I saw an AlphaTauri duo be so high up in the standings. Absolutely spectacular race. There's a lot of penalties being given on the midfield, and my throat is absolutely killing me, so take it away, Sanjay.
Yeah, I mean, Cam in the end was able to get past Quinton there, and Beamer gets a good amount of points for only one Alfa Romeo driver this weekend, so he does the best of what he's got. Era was able to come back up into 8th place. Freddie Rizal, Cal, finish out your top 10. Marcel Pabst having that spin earlier in the race, finishes P11. Josh, fighting for those top 10 points or top 10 positions too, ends up P12, and then I'll get to the next ones when the next screen comes over. But what a race at the end there. Two good friends, Ryan and Hudson, and they had a ton of respect racing today, and that was a great win for Ryan. And I mean, we'll probably see them in the interview booth later right now. So yeah, I mean, what a race. Lost my mouse.
Yeah, we'll see the rest of the grid if you want to keep on taking it down. I'm going to get our drivers set up for our interviews. Now it's showing Hudson Pool P16 here, but that's just because he quit the game or quit the race too early, and it's kind of falsifying the information here.
Yeah, so Becky B, it says P13, but he's really P14. Yeah, it looked like he had a bit of a hard time out there. Nick Hamrick, another Williams driver, he ends up P15. Jack Fletcher P16. And then Tanel, reserve for Alpine. Rough day in the office for him too. Probably wants to do better tomorrow. Gets P17. Eric McNerney, first time back, gets P18. He was pretty quick, other than the time penalties and just some mistakes that's happening. So we'll probably see more of him. And then Mac finishes out this race at P19. Rough day for McLaren, but yeah. Awesome days for Mercedes and AlphaTauri.
Yeah, great results for AlphaTauri already in the Discord channel. The guys are really happy about it, celebrating about it. We're just gonna get our boys into the waiting room in a second. Eric McNerney says he's upset at himself for spinning. And then, as we mentioned earlier, goes into the pits and the game doesn't switch to the wing. That's something we've known the game to do a couple times.
Yeah, even I ran into that issue pretty recently. I want to say like a week ago. Yeah, I was racing at Austria and said I had a broken wing. Went to go pit, didn't change my wing, and yeah, it happens. And those are just the things you just kind of have to learn next time around. Eric will know to turn on that from auto thing to yes, because I do it all the time now because I don't want to run into that issue.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You always learn that lesson the hardest way possible, and yeah. Hudson Pool is in the waiting room. We're gonna wait for Marco Bastin, P3 finisher, and so we can have Ryan Newton for ourselves at the very last, who's probably celebrating with the Mercedes boys and their 26 engineers. There they are. They're available. So let's get our P3 finisher. We're gonna bring in Marco Bastin. Marco, who's had a great performance here in Imola, P3 for him. However, I know you're probably looking for the top two positions at least. Talk to us what happened in that race and why didn't you have the pace to fight for the win?
Yeah. I had an incident on lap one, turn one. Someone just hit me in the back, so I was luckily I didn't spin, but I had to cut the chicane and I had to use a lot of ERS to catch them. After that, so I was just stuck behind them with very little ERS. Did some mistakes and had no ERS to catch back. So from there, it was pretty much a race on my own. I was able to catch back after the pit stop. But again, same scenario. I had to use ERS to get Maxim out of my DRS, and from there I just had no ERS to stay with them. So, but yeah, Ryan won, so this is great for the team. I'll get the podium. Imola is not a great racetrack for me. Plus, with the wall hitting me last week, that wasn't cool. But in a way, I prefer to talk to you, Ranger. I don't like the other guys, so I just want to talk to you. So I kind of did that. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but seeing like did you guys expect the undercut to be as strong as it was there? Because not only did you get really close to Ryan at the end there, you were able to undercut Hudson on those like fresher hards. And honestly, I thought you guys could maybe even hold back Hudson behind the two Mercedes there.
Yeah, it could have worked if my ERS was full, but it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, so Ryan kind of slowed down for me to have DRS to defend, but I was out of ERS, so it wasn't a great move, I think. Yeah, from there they were just gapping me so much. I had to watch out for Magnussen behind, who was catching me a bit. Also, I had 2 warnings since like lap, I don't know, 10 or something. So I was just very careful at the end, not pushing, careful for the warning, and Magnussen behind. It's a podium, we'll take it.
Marco, next week is the first time we're going to see Zero do a random Grand Prix, which will only be released 2 hours before the actual race time. What are your thoughts on that, and how are you going to try to prepare for that race?
I don't know, honestly. I hope it's a great track for me. Something like I don't know. I've never done Baku or Vegas yet. That's something that could be fun. Of course, I don't want a track like Monaco is already there, so maybe Canada. I want to avoid that. Yeah, if I'm getting lucky and getting a pad track, that will be great for us because Ryan also on pad. We'll see.
Absolutely. Congratulations for P3. I'm sure you guys are going to be celebrating it tonight with Ryan's performance on track tonight. And we'll see you next time.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's bring our P2 finisher, the Hudson Hornet, who gave everything he could to get the P1 on Ryan Newton, but in the end, it's P2. Talk to us through that battle at the end of the race, Hudson. How did that go? And what would you do differently to get that win?
I would get a new fucking steering wheel so my overtake button would work. I had like a 7/10 fucking gap between him going into the straight on the last lap. I click my overtake, nothing fucking happens. I don't even realize, and he's flying by me. I'm like, why? And it's because my overtake button didn't turn on. That should have been the easiest fucking win I've ever had. That's actually that's unbelievable, dude.
Do you
So
think
sad.
that that overtake, having that energy available, would have helped you with that DRS too, though? Because he was pretty close to you into that. Like I think it was lap 31 or into lap 32, I guess. Yeah, he was dumping everything and had that DRS and slipstream on you. Do you think the energy would you been able to defend against it?
Absolutely. He on the penultimate lap on the last chicane before last two corners, he absolutely bottled it, and it was like a 7/10 gap. I cannot believe that fucking happened. But I mean, GG's to him. He ran a good race. We were clear of everyone else, that's for sure. So I guess we'll see what happens with the random track next in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I've asked that question to Bastien, who's kind of hoping some of the tracks. Well, he was hoping not to have a couple tracks. Like he mentioned, notably Canada. How are you? What are you kind of hoping for the random track next week?
But for Vegas, baby. After watching the IRL race, bro, that was kind of cool. But I mean, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind Spa either. Yeah, one of those two probably.
Is there a track you don't like?
Yeah, Portugal and China. And both of those are on the calendar, which is great. I hate Bahrain. If we get Bahrain, I'm quitting. Not racing. It's the worst track on the damn calendar, like ever.
Oh, really interesting to hear some of the drivers' opinions on the different tracks. Hudson Pool, congratulations on P2, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, thank you for commentating. Have a good one.
You do.
All right, well, he's down there. He's talking to his teammate, but we're going to drag him up here. Ryan Newton, his first ZRL win in Division 1. He was so close to getting it in Japan last season. I told him already you should be getting the win. Me and Sanjay, we gave you finally a positive broadcast curse because we knew that win was coming. You gave it your all tonight, and you finally come away P1. How are you feeling? What are the emotions as you cross that line on a bit of a drag race from Hudson Pool behind you at the end of this race?
Yeah, I feel this is probably like one of the last tracks I expected to get my first win on, but it was great to just, I guess here we weren't expecting. We thought a lot of the other guys would have more pace than us, especially us being on controller. I thought Quentin. I was expecting Quentin to be up there, like running in P1 by like a mile, or maybe like Era. I thought a lot of other guys, but it seemed like quality went our way. Falling second and third, I didn't see a lot of the other guys. I was shocked to see the other guys down there, and then I don't know what happened. I definitely want to rewatch, but some crazy.
Yeah, some like crazy turn one incident. Even I want to go back and take a look at it. A
Yeah.
lot of like big name like Quinton, Era, they all just were bottom five.
Yeah,
So-
I saw. Yeah, I saw because Magnus and Cube and like Maxime were just in fourth and fifth. I'm like, and I was so confused where they came from. But
I mean, they drove a great race too. They made
Yeah.
sure to keep Mark on his feet. So
Yeah.
it sounds like
yeah, I think Mark struggled. But I mean, it's good points for us, especially after last weekend. I think I got like P6 and he DNF'd. But congrats also on Maxime or Magnuson. Actually, I know Maxime's been struggling a decent amount, but lately, so good result for them. But I'm happy to finally get that first win. Excited for the rest of the season. I think I wasn't expecting too much this season, but now I think we might be back in the championship. So
Well, it's definitely putting Mercedes, I would assume, on great dominant position in regards to constructors. Do you think this is the kind of pace you could keep up for the rest of the season?
I think so. I will say, only thing Monaco and maybe some of the random tracks, unless we can get some good tracks for them. But Monaco, I mean, I think I'm pretty good over one lap, but that race pace at Monaco is just a different story. Like these, so I probably might get destroyed by these wheel guys there.
yeah, and we have that random track coming up, and we've been asking the other two drivers what tracks they're hoping for. Definitely tracks that they want they want to avoid, and we were interested to see what you're saying about that.
Yeah. I want Bahrain as one, obviously.
That's
Biggest
funny
influence
because
there.
Hudson was complete opposite on that. Hudson was like, I hate that track. So
That's better for me. Than me and
yeah,
Mark. Me and Mark definitely want Bahrain. We're happy to see China on there. Anything that doesn't have chicanes, usually good. Japan, I say I'm pretty quick at, so that'd be maybe a decent one for the random tracks. But
right.
It'll be definitely really interesting to see how that could work out for you with the random track coming next week. But it's only round two. There's still 8 rounds to go, so keep your head down, and we'll see where that could bring you at the end of the season. Ryan Unity, congratulations again for that P1 finish. A spectacular win here in Imola.
yeah,
It's P1 for you, and we hope to see more of that coming on your way. Thank you for
Alright.
being here and for the interview.
Yep, thank you.
Well, Sanjay, it's the first broadcast we have had together. Quite a race we're having, and next week being a random track. I think a lot of drivers are feeling very differently about the tracks that they want or don't want, and it just comes to prove that, a lot of drivers tend to find their pace or find their mojo quite easily on certain tracks. With only 2 hour delay before announcing the track, doesn't leave a lot of room for practice or for setups. What are your thoughts on what's upcoming next week?
I mean, I think we start seeing like drivers who are naturally like fast immediately. There's definitely a lot of drivers like that where they can immediately hit the track and they're good, right? But to extract that little like that extra time, that's where people put in the time throughout the week. So I'm interested to see if it will shuffle around what we saw today. Like who will actually be really quick. And of course, there are tracks that people don't like, and especially for the tracks that people don't like, they want to spend more time on it to get the pace they need. So I what to expect? Honestly, I'm not sure what to expect. Maybe we'll see the same, drivers that we see every weekend dominate the same way, but if they don't have that practice, I don't know. Maybe there'll be some special names in there that will give us a good surprise.
Yeah, it'll all come down to the driver's raw pace, really. Some drivers have to practice a lot and, tweak their setups to their likings and spend a lot of time in qualifying and practicing. Other drivers, they get on the game 15 minutes before the race, they do a couple laps, slap a setup and in on their car, and they're good to go. So we might see a very different grid than we saw tonight, most definitely. Sanjay, I want to thank you again for the broadcasting tonight. To our viewers,
Yeah,
let's
thank
not
you, Ranger.
forget to like and subscribe. We're so close to getting 400 subscribers on YouTube. And it'll be nice to have that nice round numbers and our subscribers. And we will see you all next week at a very random track that we're going to find out only 2 hours before the race that will be held, Division 1. It is Sunday at 8 p.m. Tomorrow, let's tune in for Division 2. It also in Imola, accompanied by Nathan Doan and Magnus and Cube, our Division 2 broadcasting duo. Wish you good night, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Good night.